Hey everybody, thanks so much for watching the Arkansas Gun Guy. Today a close-up look at H&K's VP9 versus a Glock 19 Gen 4. A friend of the channel contacted me and says, you know, you never do Glock reviews and Glock comparisons. And I said, well, it's because I don't own a Glock. I am very much an H&K fan, a SIG fan, a CZ fan. I'm a fan of pretty much all firearms except Glock. I'm not a Glock hater. I just don't own one. So he was generous enough to lend me his G19 to make some comparison videos. And I want to start with the H&K, which is probably my favorite striker-fired handgun. So this is my honest point of view of what I see on the Glock, what I see in the H&K, what I like about this better than this, and vice versa. If you have experience with both guns, I would appreciate you sounding off in the comments to see what you like or dislike about one or the other. As people who are doing research on both guns actually read your comments and make decisions. So that's one of my favorite things about this channel is the feedback that we get in the comment section that really helps people make informed decisions. So what do I know? They're both, again, striker-fire guns. This gun was created about 30 years ago, the first really successful polymer frame striker-fire gun. Oddly enough, H&K made the first polymer frame gun in 1970, the VP70. Never touched one, never shot one. Everything I've read says that they were not very good. So they went on, made the P7 and a bunch of other fantastic guns. But along the way, Glock introduced the G17 and then the G19 and just set the world on its ear with the fact they could make an affordable, polymer frame, durable, indestructible tool. And eventually H&K got a military contract for a polymer frame striker-fire gun and made one, 20 years later, I'm guessing. So this is somewhat, I think, an evolution of the Glock. So again, both striker-fire polymer frame guns. The dimensions are pretty much identical in every single way. They're about the same length, about the same width, about the same height. I say that. The Glock is, the H&K is slightly taller with the longer grip here versus the Glock. The Glock holds 15 rounds. This longer grip on the H&K allows it to hold 17 rounds. Older versions of the VP9 held 15 rounds, but in the past 2 years or so, they've extended it so they all hold 17 rounds now. While we're talking about magazines, the magazines in the Glock, I think are pretty much interchangeable amongst all Glock models, which I don't know. But if the magazine fits in the gun, I believe it will fire for pretty much all 9mm Glocks. Could be wrong. Again, please correct me in the comments. The VP9 also has interchangeable magazines. The VP9 comes in multiple sizes. This is a standard. They make a long and a subcompact. And all the magazines, again, fit, if they'll fit inside, lengthwise, inside the grip module. The VP9 magazines also interchangeable with their hammer-fired gun, the P30 series. So H&K's P30s and VP9s have interchangeable magazines, for what that's worth. As I'm kind of talking about the grips, I'll also kind of talk about the fact that they both seem to have adjustable back straps. The Glock, rather, looks like it's a back strap that you can put on here. I'm assuming there comes with small, medium, and large, and change that out. H&K also comes with an adjustable back strap, small, medium, and large options, but they also come with side panels as well, small, medium, and large. So you can have any combination of a small, medium, and large back strap and a small, medium, and large side panel on either side. So super customizable. And as I pick this up, I'll just go ahead and talk about ergonomics. The H&K feels amazing in my hand. H&K and I think Walther seem to have ergos figured out. They both have grip module, finger grooves. You can see here, I'll pick the Glock up in a second. But this guy just feels fantastic in my hand. I like the stippling here on the grip that goes all the way around. Just a nice detail that goes around there. So big fan of the way that the H&K feels in my hand. When I pick the Glock up, some people say they feel like a brick, and it is not as ergonomic for sure. And maybe I could change the grip angle a bit or the feel with a different back strap here, but it definitely doesn't feel as good. It has adequate stippling here. Finger grooves are stippling there as well and on the back. So it's easy to maintain control of the firearm, but it just doesn't have, I like the way this looks and feels, my humble opinion. Now, one thing I do notice about the Glock when I hold it that I like better than the H&K is how low this guy sits in my hand. I go on and on oftentimes about CZ's low bore axis, and I was really surprised by how low this guy sat in my hand. You can see the slide, these have been safety checked by the way, sits right above my finger there. The H&K, which feels better, sits higher. You can see I've got a finger's width there of space, so the bore axis is slightly higher on the H&K. Doesn't really affect my shooting very much, but that was just something I noticed. I really, really like the fact that the Glock does sit so low in my hand. So I'm going to pop this out as well. All right, what else about both firearms? As I keep going up here, if I look at the Glock again, the H&K is slightly longer. As I look at this, it looks like the trigger guard is slightly bigger here for gloved hands if you want. I think you could probably get gloved hands in here as well, but more of an oversized trigger guard on the H&K versus the Glock, and both adequate. Another of my favorite things about H&K is the fact that they are fully 100% ambi all the way across the board. So if you notice, they have slide, stop, side catch on this side and on this side. And my favorite thing about H&Ks are the paddle releases. Your mag release is here on the left side for right-handed shooters, or here on the right side for left-handed shooters. You can depress the paddle with either finger, releases the magazine, making it truly ambidextrous. Now, I know that, yes, there's no slide stop here, so it's not ambi at all. People say, well, the mag release is reversible. It's reversible, it's not ambi. I am left-handed, my whole family is right-handed, so I don't want to reverse it and make it convenient for me and not for them. With the H&K, it is truly 100% ambidextrous and no adjustments required. So kudos to H&K for making ambi-friendly firearms for the whole world. Now, we'll see the pick rail is also a little longer on the H&K versus the SIG, but they both have a place for your lights or lasers and what have you. Another thing I noticed is that the cocking serrations for H&K are front and back, only back on the Glock. It's kind of a smoother front look up here, very clean look on the Glock. Probably makes it maybe easier for holstering, but you can still rack from the front if you want to. Definitely easier from the back with those cocking serrations. Where the H&K has front cocking serrations for up here, has rear, but they also have these odd little ears back here, these handles that you can use to cock. So some people really like that. Some people really hate that. I'm indifferent to maybe don't like it as much. I've seen it break on some other people's firearms, so it could be a weak point in what is supposed to be an indestructible gun with H&K's quality, or reputation rather. So you can easily replace them, I know, but that's just one thing that it's a neat feature, not one that I use very much. Another neat feature that the H&K has, while I have it in my hand here, is this striker indicator. It does tell you, and this may not show up on camera, if your striker is cocked. So, you know, the trigger's dead right now, and you can see that there is nothing inside that black dot there. This shows up really well in person. I'll see if I can get it on camera. If you cock the firearm, it's ready to fire, you can see a red dot that's visible. You can see it on camera there with my lighting. But in person, very, very visible. So if there's any question about if you've cocked your gun or not, there you know. Again, neat feature, one that I don't use very often, but another difference between the two firearms. I do hear people talk about Glock sights quite often, and they don't like them and change them out, which I think they are pretty easy to adjust. But I actually like the sight picture. I think it's different and interesting. But the little dot in the basket there is pretty easy to stay on target. Again, I have 50 rounds through this guy, 5.0, and it shot adequately. I had no trouble, hitting the target. It seemed fine. I like the sight picture. I had to adjust my grip angle a little bit with just the way this is angled here. But in general, I shot this gun just fine, and I kind of like the sights. The VP9, I like the sights a little better. Again, this is the night sights version, so it's probably more expensive than the standard 3-dot version, but you've got the rear, black dot rear with serrations there, and that big green dot up front. Very, very easy to stay on target here. I mentioned earlier, these guns are pretty much identical in most ways. The triggers are also, at least as far as trigger pull goes, almost identical. I grabbed my handy dandy trigger gauge earlier, and I don't do it on camera because it's awkward. And I got pretty much the same kind of trigger pull on both, although to me, the H&K does feel, in my humble opinion, softer, but there is a really good chance that's because I have more time with this firearm. I mean, you can see both if you haven't. People I also have heard don't love Glock triggers. I think they're totally adequate, but the trigger feels fine. The reset is very aggressive. You can feel it push your finger forward. Not much take up and a shot. So very aggressive, small bit take up and a shot. As opposed to the H&K, a shot. Softer reset for sure. It's more take up though, definitely more take up. So there's that, more take up and a shot. So in my head, I said this guy felt softer, but it seems like the Glock has actually a little shorter reset for your follow-up shots. Again, my humble point of view, a quick look at my new friend, the Glock 19, and how it compares to my old friend, H&K's VP9. Both great firearms. Price-wise, again, if this guy, I researched online, it seems like the MSRP is about $500, best I could tell. I don't know how often they go on sale. The VP9s, the MSRP is higher. I see them usually $700 or $800, maybe $900 if you go with the optics version. These are both non-optics versions. So generally, though, the H&K is $200 to $300 more expensive than the Glock. However, at Christmas time, Palmetto State Armory ran very aggressive sales on H&K P2000s and VP9s and had them for $499. So for the same money, I'm going with the H&K all day because it's just, that's too good to pass up, all the features it has and the way that it feels to me versus the Glock for the same money. If this guy's $300 more expensive, ooh, that may be harder. What do you guys think? Which one do you like? Do you prefer? I know the Glock fans are going to tell me H&K sucks and it's terrible. H&K fans are going to say Glock is trash. They both shoot well for me. I both shot the target. Would have no problem carrying either one to defend my life for my family. So happy with both. I do love my VP9. I'm not going to buy a Glock yet. If I do buy a Glock, I don't know what it's going to be. Thinking about that. But in general, not a bad gun at all. I like it. I still like my VP9 more, I think. But again, nothing bad to say about the Glock at all. That's just my humble point of view of how the two compare side by side. Thank you guys so much for watching the Arkansas Gun Guy. I appreciate you sticking along this far. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. It help me grow my little channel to world domination.